y'all, a new Gallup poll came out.
Really?
Yeah.
What did it say?
Right. Just last week. It highlights just how deep the political divide is in this country. How deep is it? It's so deep. I got nothing. Anyway. The poll measures the confidence that Americans have in 14 of our most esteemed institutions, including the police, the U.S. Supreme Court, the military, the presidency, or church or organized religion. Not surprisingly, the institutions that Republicans value and Democrats value varies widely. There is a 45% gap in confidence in the police, with 2/3 of Republicans expressing their confidence in law enforcement. On the other end of the spectrum, there is a 49% gap in confidence in the office of the president, with more than 60% of Democrats saying they hold the office in high esteem. The divides are not all that surprising, of course, as more Republicans honor institutions such as the church, the military, small and large businesses, and banks. Democrats put more value into things such as the medical system, television news, organized labor, and public schools. The only place that there seems to be some manner of agreement is that both sides have similar respect for the criminal justice system. You wouldn't be wrong to think that the polarization between parties and ideologies in this country has gotten worse. Misinformation, outright lies, and manufactured outrage from many parts of the media has played a role in all of this, which fosters a sense that we're never going to find our way back to each other, not just as a country, but as neighbors and friends. It creates a feedback loop of despair because we look at those on the other side of our perceived divide and we don't understand them. We think they're crazy. But the thing is, those on that perceived other side, they think we're crazy too. And so it seems impossible for us to build some sort of a bridge. It is, of course, impossible to bridge the divide between egos in this world. No one's ego, not mine or any conspiracy-believing child of God, has any interest in being wrong, much less being willing to admit that they have been duped. But you know what? Here is the thing. We have all been duped. Whenever we follow our ego's ideas and beliefs about anything, we're already hoodwinked. We're already blinded to the truth about this world, and the truth is, it's all an illusion. This is nothing but a dream. The nursery rhyme is right. You know, life is but a dream. We're merrily rowing our boats. Life is but a dream. But this dream is a lucid one. And that means we can do something about it. We can change this world, not through the ego's means of protest, peaceful or otherwise, not through the ego's means of resistance or rage or violence, and we have used all of these in the past with varying degrees of success, but none of them has actually healed a darn thing. Whatever progress one faction makes on its issues, power changes hands and the other faction makes progress on its issues by rolling back the previous group's progress. And on it goes until we call the whole thing history, and we either vaunt the events as victories or we bury them because we were the losers. Welcome, my friends, to the world of ego. We more spiritual types, though, we want to heal the world. But we feel helpless. According to A Course in Miracles, we feel helpless because we live in this world with a split mind, which means we reject either the notion of separation or the notion of unity because we can't believe in both simultaneously because of our split mind. So we always have to reject one for the other, sometimes within the same moment. The fact that we are still here, believing in a divided up world and all these warring factions, it means that we have obviously chosen to believe and value the idea of separation. We have rejected unity as so much woo-woo, spiritual bypass, hoo-ha. How we live when we accept separation as our reality, we live in a state of guilt. And as I've said before, the Course is very specific when it talks about this idea of guilt and what it means. It refers to a belief that we have deeply offended God by choosing to value separation. And we believe that when God finally gets a hold of us, there is going to be hell to pay. God is mad at us. So instead of waiting for the bill on hell to arrive, we just go ahead and create that hell for ourselves right here and right now by taking all of that guilt and projecting it out onto the world. We make ourselves feel better about the state of the world by blaming everybody else around us for mucking up what otherwise is a pretty sweet deal. And so this creates a hopeless world. And it reinforces the belief in our own split mind. So we keep the separation going by just projecting fear out onto one another and constantly attacking each other. It's called Facebook or Twitter. That's where we do it. You can see it in action. Just scroll for about 5 minutes. So how do we end this cycle? One of us has to change our minds. You can't keep the cycle going. You can't break it until somebody says no more. Until we stop valuing separation and we put all of our heart and mind on creating even the tiniest sliver of unity within this lucid dream. However, before we can create any unity out here, the first step, it seems so simple, but it's the most difficult. We have to create unity within ourselves. And so the Course invites us to do this mental exercise in chapter 14 where we envision what it calls the Circle of Atonement. This place, this Circle of Atonement, it isn't anywhere in the physical world. It's all within our heart and mind. It's that field that the poet Rumi talks about that is out there beyond wrongdoing and right doing, that place where unity is more valuable to us than separation. It's a place where our higher divine self resides. Here there is no judgment. There is no us and them. There's no politics. There's no media. There's no Facebook. There's no Twitter. Nothing that tempts us to separate ourselves from who we perceive as others. And this is where our lucid dreaming comes into play. This jubilance is how we change the world in this holy circle. We get to choose who is in and who is out. But the Course says we have to exercise caution. Each one you see, it says, you place within the holy circle of atonement or leave outside, judging them fit for crucifixion or for redemption. If you bring them into the circle of purity, you will rest there with them. If you leave them without, you join them there. If there is anyone that you are willing to leave outside of this circle of atonement, we ourselves are outside of that. Remember, according to the Course, atonement is how the Holy Spirit undoes. It's how it undoes our egoic thought and belief system. Within the circle of atonement, you are unable to see the world through your egoic lens. You can't do it. Every time you look at someone, you just see God. Look, there's a piece of God walking around right there. Whether it's an opponent, someone you see as an enemy, someone you think is a stranger or a deluded person, when you are in the circle of atonement and you bring them in, you can't see them that way anymore. All you see is their radiance. All you see is their innocence. All you see is their inner divinity, because they possess one just as much as we do. The Holy Spirit perceives us all as perfect, the Course says in chapter 6. And that should be our starting point whenever we perceive other people. Everyone you see is perfect because they are an innocent child of God. Their behavior might not be so perfect, and it's not because they're terrible people. It's because they're caught up in egoic systems that we have collectively created from projecting our guilt and prizing separation over unity. If we value unity over separation, then we become willing to start seeing everyone around us through those eyes of compassion. And when we do that, we become willing to bring them into this holy circle of atonement with us so that we can create that loving and compassionate world that we want to see outside of us. Jubilants, I know you want to change the world, but you know what? The only world you could ever change is the one inside of you. The world around us is a reflection of our current value systems that disregards unity for separation. And I guarantee if you create a world of unity and peace within yourself, the world outside will shift to match that. And how do I know this for certain? Because there's one thing every single one of us in this world has in common, and that is we all have a brain. Breathe deeply. In her famous 2008 TED Talk, Jill Bolte Taylor recounted what it was like to go through a stroke, where the left side of her brain suddenly stopped functioning, and she was left in this nonverbal, non-dual state of her right brain. This was way back in 1996, and it took her many years to recover and write her 2009 book on the subject called My Stroke of Insight. She's recently put out a new book called Whole Brain Living: The Anatomy of Choice and the Four Characters That Drive Our Life. In this book, she provides scientific backup to all of the woo-woo, new age hoo-ha that I like to talk about in this space every week. You see, she says the whole right brain, left brain divide that we've grown up believing is not completely true. We believe our right brain is that dreamy, creative side of us, and the left brain is that thinking, calculating, and critical side, and we predominantly live in like one or the other. You know, you talk about right brain and left brain people. In fact, she says, there are 4 distinct personalities that live within our brain, and each of them have both a thinking and a feeling function. She became keenly aware about how each of these functions when she lost the whole left critical thinking and feeling side of her brain on that fateful day. She said she lost all verbal function, all sense of where her body was in space. In the shower, she says, while she was experiencing the stroke, she said she couldn't tell where her arm ended and the shower wall began. She was literally one with everything. She was living primarily from what she calls the character 4 of the brain, which is right brain thinking. This is the part of our brain that is connected with all that is. It is our universal consciousness. It's open to all possibilities. It is expansive. It is connected to this cosmic flow. It embraces change. It lives into its integrity. This is the part of us that is generous and intentional and vulnerable. And jubilance, this is the part of our body where our higher divine self is actually located. Y'all think I'm airy-fairy when I talk about your higher divine self. It's in your right brain thinking region. It's there. This is where our collective consciousness lives. This is proof that I am not making this up. I have scientific proof. That's right. The key to making peace in the world, to healing the divides that plague us in this outside world, then, is to first heal the divide within ourselves, that divided mind that cannot value unity over separation. There literally is a battle going on within ourselves, Bolte Taylor says, but she gives us tools to quell the division and find that unity, or what she calls whole brain living. There are 3 other characters that wander around regularly inside of our noggins. Character 1 is your left brain thinking self, and that is very organized, it's very neat, it's how you get stuff done. This part of us is good at all the planning and sorting all the details. It's also the part of us that critically judges between right and wrong, and it protects its views as allies and friends. Protects all, it starts to gather. It's helping to gather the tribe. It's starting to protect you. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Character 2. All right, here we go. I know, we got to get this right. Character 2 is our left brain emotional center, and this is the seat of all of your anxiety. It's where all of your fear and neuroses live. You could call this the ego part of your brain. See, I'm not making this up. Science, people. It's science. We know that we're living in this part of our heads when we're angry, when we're calling each other names and lying, or feeling guilty, or being whiny, or blaming others and judging both of them and ourselves very harshly. We are usually in our character 2, our left brain emotional, when we're on Facebook. It just is. This is the part of us that gets on Twitter and has a good time. All right, character 3 is our right brain emotional center, and this is the fun-loving part of ourselves. This is the part of ourselves that seeks out the adrenaline rush. It revels in curiosity and creativity. This is the part of us that is empathetic, and it has the ability to be awed. It has the ability to be forgiving and hopeful. And the mistake that most of us make, according to Bolte Taylor, is that we believe we don't have any choice in which part of our brains is dominant at any given moment. I mean, we know someone who fits every single one of those characters because that's the part of their brain that they have allowed to become dominant. We remain in our split mind because we think we can't heal the divisions in our own heads between our organized self, our anxious, despairing self, our playful self, or our spiritual self. Some of us are so committed to one way of brain living that we just don't even know we have the capacity to choose and live differently. Bolte Taylor, though, she offers a nice roadmap to identifying each of these characters and what your life looks like when you're trying to live from one at the expense of the others. And she offers a way to bring them all together, to heal those inner divisions so the outer divisions then can become healed as well. She calls this a brain huddle, getting all four parts of your brain to come together in any given moment. And she uses the acronym BRAIN. So step one, when you are feeling overwhelmed by one character or another, say character 2 is taken over and you're going on Facebook or Twitter and you're blasting everybody. Okay, you're feeling overwhelmed. So the first step, B, breathe. This is why I often say, breathe deeply. Because pausing, even for the moment it takes to take one deep breath, can break whatever emotional circuit you're running at the moment and connect you with the whole being. Your whole being lives in this moment. So when you breathe deeply, suddenly you're back in the moment. Next, we recognize which of our four characters is dominant in the moment. Are we in our rigid character 1? Are we in our anxious character 2? Are we in our happy-go-lucky character 3? Or our every little thing's going to be all right character 4? When we've identified what character is prominent, she says, then we appreciate it. We create a space of honor and respect it and validate its right to exist within our bodies. And now the real work begins, because next we inquire. We invite all four characters into a safe space to express their thoughts and feelings so we can fairly evaluate what's happening inside and around us and what our next best move would be. This is a lot of the work from Byron Katie, where we inquire, is that thought true? Is that belief true? What would I be without this thought or this belief? This is how we inquire about what's really going on up here in our heart and in our heads. Then she says, the last step, we navigate. We navigate the situation before us as a collective whole brain, moving in concert instead of one personality taking the lead and causing potential disaster. I think what's most important from all of this is that we as a society, we've forgotten the power of the pause. We've forgotten that first step. Breathe. Step back. Regroup before you respond, especially when you're triggered or you're upset. It's easier to stop and drop a character 2 criticism bomb on Facebook than it is to serenely scroll on by in our loving and expansive character 4. Right? It's easier. Makes you feel good. But Bolte Taylor says we have 2 beautiful cerebral hemispheres, each of which processes information in its own unique way. And she says that she believes bringing them together in that whole brain living is the roadmap we need to both our deeper inner peace and the peace of the world. The point she's making is this, Jubilants: we have a choice. We can either exclude those around us from our circle of unity, or we can bring them in. No matter who they are, what they've done or not done, what they believe in or who they voted for, the Course says holiness must be shared. For therein lies everything that makes it holy. Cast no one out. I invite you, Jubilants, make that your slogan this week. And for the rest of your life, cast no one out. There is room at the table for everyone. No matter what the other 3 characters in our head say about the matter, character 4 knows the truth. We are the all that is. There really is only one of us here at this table, having this lucid dream in our heads as our divided minds battle it out. So I invite you to turn your attention to that battlefield this week. Not the one out here. It'll still be there when you need it. But turn to that battlefield within that constantly rages within each of us when we choose separation over unity, when we choose to fully live into that fearful egoic character too, that despairs over the world. Let us instead practice the inclusion we want to see in the world by bringing every part of ourselves into this huddle. Bring that character one that guides us smoothly from the outside, guides us smoothly through this outside world, with that character three that reminds us not to take it all so seriously, and that all-encompassing higher divine self of character four that connects us to the infinite love that created us all. And you know what? This is our purpose here at Jubilee Circle, to provide these kind of tools, these kind of practices and rituals and techniques that helps you end the war within and step into a whole, undivided, holy mind that then creates first the divine world within and extends that outward into the world around us. Transformed people, transforming the world. So I invite you this week, Jubilants, get your mind right. Get in your right mind. Because when we all get into that right, undivided mind, then the world all gets to say, oh, yeah.